PragerU, by the way, is approaching 500 million views this year. It's a lot of views.
Wow!
Yes. It's a lot of work to be done in our society. One man who's doing some of this work, I have great respect for, is Roger Kimball, editor and publisher of the new Criterion. Has a great piece in American Greatness, a great website, by the way. And it's titled, Yes, Trump is Winning. Roger Kimball, welcome to the Dennis Prager Show.
Hey, Dennis. Nice to be with you.
Thank you.
Speaking to you from the swamp.
Why are you there?
I'm here in well, I came down yesterday to hear the president speak last night at a heritage event, and that I'm here to see some other people to try to help with the engineering problem of draining the swamp.
Bless you. We need you. I have a question to ask you. And folks, we're putting his column up. It's very important just to give you an idea of how much Donald Trump has accomplished. Let me just quickly read a few of these. Nominating judges and justices who can be counted on to interpret and enforce the law. Addressing the problem of illegal immigration and securing the borders of the U.S. Developing America's vast energy resources, rolling back the regulatory state, pursuing policies that put America and America workers first, restoring the combat readiness and morale of the U.S. military, simplifying the U.S. tax code, getting a handle on the unconstitutional and inefficient monstrosity, ironically called the Affordable Care Act. That's a good one. I like the word ironically. Putting a stop to the obscene violation of due process that Title IX fanatics brought to college campuses, and many other initiatives. This is from Roger Kimball's piece, Yes, Trump is Winning. So, you and I are conservatives. I don't know, were you a pro-Trump during the nominating process or after he got the nomination?
After he got the nomination, I was a Ted Cruz.
Okay, great. Okay, so great, perfect. Because so like me, I was actually anti-Trump, but I said from the beginning I'll support him if he gets the nomination, and I have supported him from that day to this one. So let me ask you. So it's perfect that you weren't even there either from the beginning. What gives with our fellow conservatives? It's a very disturbing thing to me that they didn't understand in the election that if Donald Trump lost, the left in the personified by Hillary Clinton would win. What were we missing, or what were they missing?
Well, I wish I had a definitive answer to that, Dennis. It puzzles me. In fact, I wrote a column this morning for PJ Media, another of my outlets.
A wonderful outlet.
Yes, it is. On this subject, and I don't really know the answer. I mean, there are several friends, and in some cases, alas, former friends of mine who are part of that group. I mean, I understand why the left hates Trump, because he is a repository of patriotic virtues. He loves America. They hate America, ergo, they hate Trump. But why do some of our friends on the right so detest him? I suspect that it is essentially not so much an issue of substance, but an issue of, broadly speaking, aesthetics. I mean, the litany that you began the show with, or began this segment of your show with, the justices and the judges, rolling back the regulatory state, enhancing the military, trying to do something about the tax code, trying to enforce our immigration laws, making the country energy independent, and on and on and on. I mean, just this last week or 10 days, what he's done to Obamacare, pulling us out of some really onerous regulatory commitments, declining to recertify the abomination that is the Iran deal.
Right. Hold it there for one moment, Roger Kimball. I must take a break, otherwise we have no show. This is very important, and it is a very important question. Speaking to a truly a great intellect, Roger Kimball. We'll be back in a moment. Hi, everyone. I'm Dennis Prager, and welcome back to the show. Roger Kimball, I've followed his work for many years. He's the editor and publisher of the new Criterion, has a very important piece. It's up at DennisPrager.com with regard to the president and how much he has achieved. And I have asked him the $64,000 question that I have mulled over with you, my listeners, for now about a year. What month? October, over a year, because ever since he secured the nomination, I was puzzled beyond words. People, you have the same thing, obviously. People you're friendly with, even, strongly respect. And it was actually unpredictable. I couldn't, if you'd have given me a list of my favorite 20 conservative thinkers and said, pick the ones that will oppose the election, of Donald Trump, I could never have predicted it. Are you in a similar situation?
Yes. As I was saying before the break, Dennis, I'm surprised that given the litany of accomplishments, and I think it is a pretty impressive list, I'm surprised that people who initially opposed Trump haven't changed their minds, at least a little bit. But as I say, I think that the objection is at least partly more a matter of aesthetics than substance. I think that they object to the style.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you.
Trump.
I agree.
And he's not part of the club. He didn't go to Harvard. He speaks in a way that violates the sense of propriety of the hallowed halls of the Washington establishment. But what has surprised me most is, among some of the conservatives who are so adamantly opposed to Trump, is not so much the fact that they disagree with him. That's fine. It's that they don't seem to share the sense of urgency that I do about the growth and the entrenchment of what has come to be called the administrative state. If Donald Trump is able to do anything in his 8 years as president, it will be to roll back this unconstitutional leviathan that, as Philip Hamburger, who's written extensively on the administrate, has put it, has amounted to a kind of parallel state structure that runs our lives. When people talk about draining the swamp, that's what they mean. And it's going to be a long battle. No one president will be able to roll it back entirely. But it's that more than anything, Donald Trump represents. All of these other achievements are little points on the road to that goal. And I have been very surprised that the people who I deeply respect haven't been willing to recognize this. Why? I don't know. In some cases, I think it's because Donald Trump committed the unforgivable sin of being elected without their permission. How could it have happened? They didn't support him. How could it be that he is now president? But behind all of that, I think there is, I regret to say, an element of snobbery and, as I say, style that I find lamentable, given the really quite extraordinary achievements that Trump has accomplished so far.
It's pretty rare that I hear somebody say things that are exactly what I believe. I now know when listeners say to me, Dennis, it's such a joy because You're saying exactly what I say, and you're saying it so well. That's how I feel about you. You're saying exactly. No. It was. I had not thought. Not only did you say things that I think, but you said something I didn't realize. He got elected without their permission. That was a brilliant insight.
Well, the Washington establishment that we heard so much about during the campaign is a multi-headed, amorphous, fructifying beast. And many of the people that we're talking about, intelligent, patriotic Americans though they may be, I regret to say that many of them are part of that Washington establishment. The problem is not just Democrats. The problem is the establishment, Republican and Democratic, and in my view. And I think that until people are willing to recognize what the regulatory state, the deep state, the administrative state, until they're willing to recognize the threat that it poses to the American way of life, Donald Trump will never be fully accepted.
Right. This is terrific. Here, you and I believe, understand, and then we meet a brick wall. What we understand is, and I'm going to put it in a different way than I ever have, I'd like to know what the conservatives who are opposed to Donald Trump would answer this question. What's the number one problem in America? And if
yes.
I have said leftist influence, you have said the administrative state, they are entirely related, and they're the two sides of the same coin. But I want to know what they have to say, because if they identify a greatest enemy, then even a person who tweets things in a way we would never tweet deserves our support because he's undoing that damage. Back in a moment with Roger Kimball. I'm Dennis Prager. All right, everybody. Roger Kimball, I have to have you on more often. No, I so appreciate your mind, and it's rare to have a kindred spirit. So,
well, it's very nice to be with you. I don't know how much time we have, but just say I've often wondered. I've often wanted to ask some of our friends on the right who are so adamantly opposed to Donald Trump this question: would they have preferred that Hillary Clinton be president?
Yes, some of them would.
She is, after Aaron Burr, perhaps the most corrupt person seriously to run for the presidency of the United States.
I'm telling you, I feel like I'm talking to myself. It's a good thing you have a slight British accent, or I would think I'm listening to a recording of mine. I always said, why were there never Hillary people on the left? Why were there only never Trump people on the right? She was the most corrupt candidate. You're right.
Yes. No, it would have been extraordinary, and it would have been Obama on steroids had she been elected.
That's right.
The weaponization of the entire phalanx of alphabet soup administrative state entities like the IRS and the EPA.
All right. Well, you know what? We're just going to do a part 2. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Good to talk to you, Dennis.
Yes, mutual, as it's obvious to my listeners. His article is up at DennisPrager.com. By the way, everybody, the work of my life, explaining rationally the Bible and applying it to all issues of life. Please order it. Pre-order The Rational Bible at Amazon. See you tomorrow. Hi, everybody. You're listening to the Dennis Prager Show. I hope you had a good weekend. I did. I went to Colorado on Thursday, came back on Friday, went back on Sunday, and came back Sunday night. It's very bad when you have flown a certain route more than the flight attendants have. You realize it's been a little too much. By the way, I saw the largest a service dog I have ever seen on a flight yesterday. It was a new breed, by the way. Seriously, it's what is it called? It's a golden lab and a my wife. Yes, a poodle. Yeah, a labradoodle. What is it called? Labradoodle. Did you ever see one? It's very adorable. Very adorable. It somehow the sweetness of the lab like softens the neurotic nature of the poodle. Anyway, he's a large dog. He was a large dog, and he was a service dog. Did you ever see a large service dog? I had never, and I fly a lot. They usually, little guys, So I was talking to him. Her. It was a her, by the way, the dog and the lady. All right. Anyway, out of nowhere, just reviewing a little of my weekend with you. Okay, that's beautiful. That was relevant and beautiful. Before we do the Tillerson thing, I have to say something to you, my friends. But I have to put it. I have to put it in tempered language. I know I have the perfect word. Disappointed. I'm disappointed in the conservatives who do not support President Trump. I really believe at this point it is a matter of temperament. It is a desire to see oneself as on a higher plane than the president. Because his language is coarse, his modus operandi is not sophisticated. But it's so interesting. I don't get it beyond that. I don't get it. There was no hope for this country if Hillary Clinton had won. Do you realize that? Do you know the folks? I don't know if I've said this on the radio. I know I've said it in speeches. But some of you will undoubtedly recall on Election Day itself, I had Ann Coulter on. And Ann Coulter said, this is on Election Day, not the day before Election Day. She said, if Hillary wins, Dennis, it'll all be useless, including talk radio. That's how bad the condition of the society will be. And I remember thinking, I can't let that go. I'm a talk show host. I can't tell my audience, gee, we'll just be flailing, like Don Quixote against windmills. But you know what? My respect for you, I'm sure I didn't say this on the radio. So much went on in my mind when she said that. Do I disagree with her for the sake of my audience and the sake of my show? I don't want this to pass. My show is going to be less relevant, or maybe irrelevant, if the left wins the next election. However, my respect for you, my audience, and for the truth prevailed, and I did not disagree with her. And I thought Hillary was going to win. So just know, on those grounds alone, how could a conservative not say thank you every single day to Donald Trump? Do you think that Ted Cruz, whom I supported, do you think Ted Cruz would have won? I don't. You think he would have brought out all the votes that Trump brought out in Michigan? They never heard of the guy. A lot of the people who voted for Trump never heard of Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio. The only Republican who could have won is the one who won. Conservatives should be having a picture of him in their house. It's true. It's completely irrational. The conservative opposition And what I really do believe in the final analysis, and listen, I give these people platforms on PragerU. They come on my show. I dine with them. Okay, it's not personal. But it is a disappointment because I really do believe it is a desire to be able to say, hey, I am so sophisticated and I am so committed to conservatism as an elevated form of discourse that I cannot be associated with support for this president. And I also think it's a protection thing because in their heart they think he's going to do something wrong, and then they'll be able to say, look, I'm sorry. Dennis, you're the guy who's going to have to apologize. I like this. I give you an example. I think that they think just as Nancy Pelosi and others do, this guy's going to bring us into World War III with North Korea. First of all, it's not a World War III, okay? China's not going to join and attack the United States if the United States is at war with North Korea. All right? It's World War III is overstated. It's bad enough. I fear, I tell you, I totally fear a war with North Korea for the sake of South Koreans. I don't believe, though I live on the west coast of the United States, I don't believe that an intercontinental ballistic missile is coming into L.A., all right? And I think we know how to shoot them down. And by the way, you know why we know how to shoot them down? Because we didn't listen to the left. When President Reagan created the idea of the Strategic Defense Initiative, which they dubbed Star Wars. Remember that? The left completely opposed any anti-ballistic missile system. That it was a waste of money. When the left talks about waste of money, you know one thing. It has to do with military. It's the only waste of money in their view. Everything else should be overspent. No, I do. I fear. I mean, Seoul is 30 miles from the demilitarized zone, the border with North Korea, and they would want to obliterate. They would want to incinerate one of the major cities of the world, and that scares me terribly, terribly. The loss of life. However, my friends, the people who yell at the president, oh, it's bellicose talk to North Korea, how has non-bellicose talk worked? You know what it's like when the left tells us after every massacre with guns, oh, we need more gun laws. So I always ask, and then there are crickets, what gun law would have prevented this massacre? That's the answer I get in every instance. All right? There is none. We cannot identify one gun law in any of the instances that would have stopped any of these mass shootings. So too here, tell me, what do you propose we do vis-a-vis Kim Jong-un? You don't like the president's bellicose talk? Fine. Why do you believe that other talk will work when all it has done is given this monster nuclear weapons? And let me tell you something. It's not just an issue of North Korea. He gives that stuff to Iran. He gives that stuff to Islamic terrorist groups. This man doesn't know any boundaries. His nuclear weapons will not be confined to North Korea. Pakistan has nuclear weapons, and I'm not a fan of the Pakistani government, but I have no belief that they will give nuclear weapons to others. North Korea would sell their mother for money because that's all they want. So conservatives, what exactly would you like him to do that you would say, you know what? Thank God he won the election. Can you say that? It's a disappointing moment. It's a disappointing moment, I will say. This country was saved by this man, okay? Simple as that. Until further notice, that is the truth. This country was saved by the victory in the last election of a man named Donald J. Trump. 1-8-PRAGER-776. I'm Dennis Prager. Yeah, that's an example of something the president is doing that's terrific. Tax cuts. President John F. Kennedy wanted tax cuts. He said it's the only way to spur the economy. Don't you understand? You understand what the tax issue is about? This is apropos of my statement that every conservative should be thanking God or thanking whoever their heroes are if they don't believe in God for the victory of Donald Trump. There's a rift among conservatives on this. And it has to do so much with whether or not you recognize the damage that the left is doing. If you see it as an existential crisis of the United States, then you support the president. If you think that in 4 more years of the left, I mean, there were conservatives who voted for Hillary Clinton. I'm speechless. I'm disappointed on a level that is so intense that I just need to just have patience, because it's very difficult when you know that there is something that is eating at the foundations of your society, and your own allies don't see that. Anyway, if you go to taxcutsnow.com and please join the people, you got to fight. And it simply takes under a minute. You're not asked for money. You're just asked to send a message to Congress. What the tax cuts do? Tax cuts free the money from government control so that people can hire people. The notion that it's bad, it's immoral to give tax cuts to companies because companies make money. Isn't that convolutedly stupid that is? It means nothing. If companies are taxed, that means we have fewer jobs. If companies are taxed, that means we have higher prices. Who do you think pays those taxes? The CEO of the company? You do. I do. You order something, here's an example. You order something from Amazon, right? You order a book. That's where they started Amazon, in books. You order anything. Do you notice now that there's a sales tax? Everything that Amazon sells is now a sales tax. Maybe not food, I don't know, but everything else. So who pays it? Amazon? No, you. That's all it is. Taxes on companies or taxes on you. All right, have I made the case to go over to taxcutsnow.com? Have I? See, it's unsophisticated to support the president. That's what it is. These people are very sophisticated. I'm sophisticated, too. I'm just as sophisticated as the conservatives who don't support the president.
You're going to do for Trump what you're doing for the Bible.
Yep.
Make it acceptable for intelligent people to...
That's a good line, yes. That's true. I have to let intellectuals understand that the issue is not does the person sound like you would like him to sound, but is he doing what you would like him to do? Is that a fair way of putting it? I judge people by their behavior. Did I tell you? I did last week. I read to you. Was it in the New Yorker? I think it was the New Yorker that listed, O'Reilly and Weinstein and I don't know, somebody else. I don't think they mentioned Weiner, interestingly enough. They don't like mentioning Democrats. But somebody else, and then Trump. Like Trump's on the list. Trump made a comment, and just some totally unguarded moment, totally in private, didn't know he was being recorded. Every one of you would look awful if every one of your comments that were made privately were made public. Every single one of you. It's disgusting what was done. And on that basis, he is now put in the same league as Harvey Weinstein. All right. Chicago, Illinois, and Tom. Hello, Tom.
Hey, Mr. Prager, thank you very much. Two things you just said: judge people by their behavior. Look at Congress, and you can judge them by their behavior. And Trump was a Democrat when he made those comments in 2005, because that's the scumbags that they usually are. But the reason I called was I totally agree with what you said about, and I do thank God every day that Donald J. Trump is the President of the United States, because my conclusion is that the establishment Republicans disappointed and lied to us for the last 20-plus years. They did nothing about abortion. They did nothing about health care. They did nothing about the tax situation. And they kept promising they would, and they talked a great game. But the fact that they can't support a president who can help them tells me that they are on the same team behind the curtains with the Democrats, and it's them against the people.
All right, well, just let me say on behalf of Republicans in Congress, the vast majority are supporting the president. I don't want to have, I'm not saying you're doing this, but just in general, I don't want to taint the entire Republican congressional delegations, or the delegation, or whether it's in the House or in the Senate. Blame John McCain and Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins and Rand Paul, and that's it. All right? That's the problem. What we need is more conservative Republicans in the Senate, and then we won't have an issue. Anyway, the president, to his great credit, has started using his pen just like Barack Obama did. And he's fixing the Obamacare on his own, because the guy has a lot of guts. All right. Even though we didn't have... There we go. Now we have our music. You're listening to the Dennis Prager Show. Hello, everybody. I'm Dennis Prager. I can say with great pride that I've been a Nick Adams booster from the very beginning. Is that correct, Nick Adams?
That's absolutely correct, Dennis Prager. You can spot a winner. You backed the right horse.
That was a good one. Yeah, well, you know what? The killer is I spot winners in this arena, but never in stock market. But I guess for what really counts in life, this is more important. Everybody, Nick Adams, founder and executive director of the Foundation for Liberty and American Greatness. He's an Aussie, as you can hear, and I've been having him on from before he was as famous as he is today. And the president has boosted him quite rightly, and his latest book is The Case Against the Establishment. And it came out, actually, it comes out tomorrow.
Comes out tomorrow.
Wow. Well, people can obviously order it now, and they should. And we put the book up at DennisPrager.com. So, first of all, let me ask you, are you, right before you came on, I was speaking about my disappointment with conservatives who are not supportive of the president. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Absolutely, Dennis. I've been severely disappointed by the lack of support that the president has received. I think it's an absolute tragedy that finally we have the first wartime president in the culture war on our side that's out there fighting and battling and struggling, and unfortunately no one is there to back him up from our side. And I think it's really, really sad. There's been a culture war in this country, as you know, for the last 60 years, and only one side has been fighting it. And the side that's been fighting it has only been governed by the rules of Saul Alinsky and the Chicago mob. And meanwhile, everyone on our side has kind of prized these lofty ideals of collegiality and dignity and propriety. And as a result, we've lost and lost and lost, and we're now in a country that we barely recognize anymore.
That's exactly right. So what is your book about?
Well, my book, Dennis, discusses how the elite in the media, in academia, in all of the cultural institutions that have such tremendous sway, how they're really tearing down American values and attempting to destroy the presidency of President Donald Trump, and why it's imperative that we fight back with everything we've got, because everything is on the line. As you know, I came to America to make, not take, to give, not receive, to join the place, not change it. I came because it's the greatest country in the history of the world, and as a spectator, sometimes I see more of the game, and I want to make sure that Americans understand just how blessed they are. Whenever anyone is born in the United States of America or moves here permanently, they win the lottery of life. And I want to make sure that that's true for the next generation of Americans that are to come in the coming decades.
Sometimes an outsider does see it more clearly, like de Tocqueville did in the beginning of the 19th century. You're a sort of Australian de Tocqueville. No, and of course a high compliment, but that's really the role you're playing. Let me take a quick break here. Oh, I went in early? Oh, then I misheard you. I thought I heard the word 30. It's a tough issue. Let me go back to Nick then. No, we won't even have time to do that. All right, anyway, let me tell you, folks. 1-8-PRAGER-776. We have a crisis here, as you know, in the country. But something I have not talked about much is a crisis within conservatism. And that doesn't give you reason to hope for conservative movement if it's so fractured, when the most conservative president since Ronald Reagan and maybe since Calvin Coolidge is governing. You're listening to the Dennis Prager Show. All right, hi everybody. I always do what I can to bring Nick Adams' work to your attention. He has this idiosyncrasy. He loves America. It's not common anywhere now, outside of the U.S. or inside the U.S. And my friends, don't be fooled by the notion that, everybody loves America. It's just they have different ways of expressing it. That's nonsense. If you want to fundamentally transform a person, you don't love the person. Right? I love my wife, but I want to fundamentally transform her is an oxymoron. And the left wishes to fundamentally transform the United States. Nick Adams, I want to ask you a question. His book, by the way, is The Case Against the Establishment. It's coming out tomorrow. And he's right. The elites in every field, isn't it amazing? Every field, the elites just work to undermine this country. I just want to ask you, it's not in your book, obviously, but I want to ask you, do you follow what's happening in Australia?
I do follow it a little bit from time to time, Dennis, but as you can appreciate, I came to America to be American and escape Australia. And the primary reason why I wanted to escape Australia is because of the power of the establishment in Australia. And that's one thing that I want to definitely bring to your listeners' attention, that despite how bad the establishment is in the United States, comparatively it's still very weak. I mean, in Australia, there are gatekeepers for almost everything that you want to do. And it's really, really important that that doesn't happen here in the United States. We want people to be as free as possible to achieve the dreams that God put in their heart and that they want to accomplish. And the only way of doing that is to ensure that the establishment, in whatever form it finds itself, is not around.
That's exactly right. I do follow what's happening in Australia. It is very odd. I don't know the reason. The Anglo-Saxon or the English-speaking world is actually more controlled than almost any other part of the world. I have a piece that after I say goodbye to you, I'm going to talk to my listeners about. Oxford University. This is from the Daily Mail this weekend. Ban Christian Union from their college freshman affair, saying that religion is damaging and used as an excuse for homophobia and neocolonialism.
Yeah.
Go on. I know you want to react.
Oh, Dennis, look, it's tragic. It's unfortunate. We see it again and again. We see it every single day. Look, many of the Anglo-Saxon populations, many of the Anglosphere countries have a very profound sense of compliance within their DNA, it seems. And I saw that throughout my 32 years as an Australian, where people prized being compliant, where they elevated collectivism over individualism and relativism over patriotism and government over God and multiculturalism over e pluribus unum. And it's something that gives me such tremendous hope and makes me unswervingly convinced that America's best days still lie ahead of her, because there really is a very, very strong sense of individualism here that we still see it. And that's the only way that we're going to crush political correctness, this intellectual tyranny, this ideological totalitarianism that's turning the American dream into the European nightmare. And in the case against the establishment, I set out a really clear path for what we need to do in order to defeat the establishment and the proponents and advocates of political correctness, of which one and both are the same.
Excellent. Well, we're certainly promoting it here. Folks, the book is The Case Against the Establishment. Nick Adams and his co-author have done another wonderful job. Nick, stay in touch and good luck.
Dennis, it's always a privilege. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you indeed. What do you think of this news item, Daily Mail? Oxford University students have banned a Christian union from their college freshers, that's freshman, fare, after saying that religion is damaging, an excuse for homophobia and neocolonialism, unquote. Student union officials at Balliol prevented representatives from attending and warned that the society would cause harm by setting up a stall at the event. Vice President Frederick Potts told Christian union representatives, quote, Christianity's influence on many marginalized communities has been damaging in its methods of conversion and rules of practice. It is still used in many places and is an excuse for homophobia and certain forms of neocolonialism. Well, obviously, I guess no Jewish group tried to set up anything, because the same thing would be said, homophobia. Maybe not the neocolonialism, but because the Bible has a heterosexual ideal. So you understand what has now happened. Anything that is rooted in the Bible will be regarded as homophobic, neocolonialist, and whatever else. I'm sorry? Neocolonialism is, I assume they're referring to missionaries, Christians who go to Africa, for example, and do some, disgusting things like set up hospitals to cure children who have malformed faces, and we know such people who devote their lives in Uganda and in Niger and other great tourist attractions in order to help these people. And because they're Christians, therefore it's all the good they do is not mentioned. Is there a secular equivalent, however? How many secular people are leaving their lives and building hospitals? It's like the left-wing attack on the Boy Scouts. I've said for years, why doesn't the left wing set up a group to make boys into good men? Because the left only knows how to tear down, that's why. These missionaries are extraordinary people, and I'm a Jew saying it. You're listening to the Dennis Prager Show. That was put up restricted by YouTube within 1 hour of going up today. The left, I think the left is more sensitive on guns than any other issue right now, even abortion. I want to tell you something. I have not said this before. I believe that the president has more self-confidence as president with every passing day. The way he just spoke, I am president. He was calm. It was very interesting. He knows he's president. And gradually it's going to even dawn on Democrats that he is the president. He was legitimately elected, and he's the president of the United States. And do you know what I read to you last week? You might recall from a prominent liberal. He'd probably win again if he ran. We'll be back. You're listening to the Dennis Prager Show. Hello, everybody. You're listening to the Dennis Prager Show. What was it last week? I went on a rant against, what was it, World Opinion? Yeah, a few times. Oh, that's really... World Opinion's done a lot for the beleaguered of the world, hasn't it? Hey, those of you of Ukrainian descent, what did World Opinion do for you in the 30s when Stalin killed 6 million Ukrainians through starvation, deliberate starvation? Remember what World Opinion did? I'll tell you what World Opinion did. It gave the New York Times a Pulitzer Prize in 1932 for denying that there was starvation in Ukraine. You know how many times the Times has been asked to give that Pulitzer Prize back, but won't? World Opinion did a lot for the Jews in the Holocaust, didn't it? Yeah. Did a lot for the Tutsis in Rwanda, didn't it? Not to mention how much it did for the Yazidis under ISIS. What the hell has World Opinion done for any of the truly killed? What about the 60 million Chinese systematically starved because Mao was sending his food to Stalin in order to get nuclear or just armaments in general to build up his military capacity? Starved about 60 million people in the Great Leap Forward, while he was betting anything that walked, any female that walked. You know that one of the 10 books that I say most shaped my thinking is a biography of Mao. It's up at my it is up at my website where I have the 10 or 20 books. This was it's one of the regrets of my radio career. It was a Chinese and English collaboration, but I couldn't get them on the show for whatever reason. World Opinion. Whew. That's a real help to the oppressed. It's worthless, actually. 1-8-PRAGER-776. Yes. This is anyway. It's a clarifying time, isn't it? It's for the talk show, for the late night talk shows. What can you watch? Wait, you know who might be the one who is not politicized? Who's the guy? I'm so terrible with names. I know. So the redhead. Who's the redhead? And went to Harvard. Half the audience is screaming the name at the radio. You don't even remember?
Is it Irish guy?
Yes. What's his name? Sean, you don't remember either? I can't believe it. I'm always bailed out by one of these two guys. I was just reading about him, too. Conan O'Brien, thank you. I think he's your only choice left, isn't he? I mean, Colbert is become... it's just, welcome to the angry show. Whew, it's mean-spirited. Well, the left is characterized by a mean-spiritedness. The only people who think that they're not, who still think they're not mean are they themselves. They have this very inflated view of their goodness. So who else is there? There's Jimmy Kimmel. He just said goodbye to half his audience. So maybe you have. And in sports, there are still a lot of decent people left and right who don't use their forum to tell you what we don't really give a damn about what they think. That's what they don't understand. It's so amazing. We don't care, Popovich, what you think. Do you have any credibility in the realm of deep thought? I'm not saying a coach can't be a deep thinker. Of course he can. Does he have a record of deep thought that we would therefore, gee, what does Greg Popovich have to say? I'm curious. We'll be back. Take your calls, 1-8-PRAGER-776. That's a big deal, taxcutsdown.com. These are the good guys that we have to fight along with. They're doing the work. All we have to do is sign up. Takes you less than a minute. My old fear is that the good folks don't fight. You know why? And there's a totally good reason, a legit reason, because they just want to lead a life devoted to their families, their friends, their religion, their hobbies, their work, their communal service. Please leave us alone. This is such a powerful thing. I was reading this fantastic history of Protestantism, and the author made this great point. I had him on the show. He's a British author. And he said the Protestants introduced 3 ideas, and one was just awesome. I'd never thought of it like that. He said they introduced the social idea, leave us alone. That is what the American dream is. Government, please leave us alone. In all of human history, kings and princes and tyrants have just not left us alone. That's what we want. The left wants to reintroduce that form of tyranny, where the government interferes in every area of your life. Whether it's football or whether it's late-night TV or, of course, the university, now the high school and elementary school. Leave us alone. So people who want to be left alone don't fight. So this is my way of asking you to just go to taxcutsnow.com. So you send your desire for tax cuts, which is good for the country, to your representative and to the Congress generally. Taxcutsnow.com. See, every time I mention them, I get a chance to philosophize on the state of America and the notion of fighting, the good fight. We're PragerU is in a fight here. It's going to be reported in the Wall Street Journal, I think, tomorrow. There's a real attempt to make it very hard for people to watch us on Google YouTube. Google owns YouTube. We have really registered on their radar with 500 million views this year and changing people's minds, presenting a conservative alternative. Google is as left-wing as Brown University. Or Berkeley. Imagine if Berkeley ran the internet. Now you know what it's like. These are very real problems. Very, very real problems. Because power over others is in the DNA of left. That's why they have an advantage over the right. We don't want power over anybody. I mean, to speak personally, I've said to you often, people have asked why to run for office. And I thought of it very, very seriously all of my life. But it's not in my DNA. It's not in my nature. My nature is to influence. I don't want power over anybody. There's not a fiber in me that wants to control anybody. But the left, every single member of the Democratic Party in Congress, in local state government, they yearn for power over you. That's why they're Democrats. So they have an inherent advantage. Vote for us, this is what we'll do for you, which means have power over you. Let's be honest, folks. That's what it means. You think doing good for you comes with no price? It means I'll have power over you. Or have power over the next guy.